So if you're trying to make sense of AI for your business, you're in the right place. Hi, folks. Welcome back to Unlocking AI Value with Aaron and Jay. And today's topic is about the next generations impacted by AI, which is going to be
Yeah.
exciting. People that are new to this kind of stuff and don't have some of the baggage that us old dudes have. So,
Right.
yeah. So let's talk about that, Jay. Let's kick it off.
Yeah, so I think there's a lot of misinformation out there, in my opinion. The data doesn't support it. That, if you're a junior developer, programmer, or someone in a domain, you're going to have a hard time finding a job because now AI is going to do your work. Anyone doing mundane, I don't know, anyone that's just doing data entry anymore, but anyone that's just doing, stuff that could be, replaced by an agent or some automated way of doing it, they're going to have a hard time finding a job. But that's the way it's been for every paradigm shift that we've ever experienced over the last, decades, right? This is no different, right? There are going to be some changes in jobs, and careers and so forth, but I don't think it's at a point, a lot of people are guessing that it's going to be severe and there's going to be a lot of job displacements and people displacements in the organizations. There's been examples where, like Ford Motor Company and others have laid off people and they had to bring them back
Mhm. Yeah.
because, AI wasn't doing, they had quality issues, right? Then there's IKEA did a really good job. They just changed what some of their people would be doing. So they got AI to work and do some of the work that some of these people were doing and the marketing and so forth. But now what they did is they said, "Oh no, we're going to have you come over here and do this kind of UX type work and develop this." So they just reuse their workforce and their capital to do that. So I think that's what we're going to see more of. But I think there's also a personal thing here. I mean, a lot of people probably have their kids going to college and everything, and maybe get a degree in computer science or something. What's your experience there, Aaron?
Yeah, it's been interesting. So yeah, definitely personal and close, near and dear to my heart. So I have a couple of things here. So a couple interesting aspects to this for me. So number one, I for the first time uh, started doing some professoring. I guess is technically what I am, some kind of like adjunct professor. But really, I was coaching some MBA students through their capstone program, which is more of an entrepreneurial consulting kind of thing. But with that, got a little bit of insight into what's happening in the academic world on the side of the professors and how they're starting to think about AI. And so IU, Indiana University, and the Kelley School of Business specifically took some time right before this previous summer semester started. So back in like end of May, they actually took a full day or two to sit down and think through, okay, if we started using AI more, what's that going to look like for my class that I teach? And so all of them went through that in this workshop and started to chart out like, what does that look like? What's okay? What's not okay? What should we have as an organizational, set of governance policies around the use of AI? Because we can't just say don't use it, uh, because people are going to use it for one thing, but also you want them to be truthful and honest about how they're using it, right? So so they started setting some guide rails and guidelines about what's okay and what's not okay for that. For example, right, as long as you can do some research with AI, but you should disclose, hey, I used AI to do this research, and that's okay, right? But let's just say it
Mhm.
out loud, right? What you don't want to do is write a personal paper using AI, right, to draft it and get a 90%, and then draft of it, and then you polish it from there. You want to write that more from scratch, right? And so there's certain things that they gave some guidance and guide rails on how to use AI effectively and in the right ways so that the students are actually learning, but also taking advantage of opportunities to be more effective and go deeper on things as well, which is
Mhm.
really cool. So that's from the academic side in terms of being a professor and thinking about how does that change how you look at things. There are certainly tools. I'm finding in the grading system. There's also some great tools that they're using with AI to do things like scan everyone's papers and see if anyone's copying each other. Like when they write papers and submit them, like, oh, these three
Wow.
papers are 70% the same, right? Oh, well, that's interesting. So that kind of stuff exists on the back end of it. But then on the other side of it, my son is actually going into a sophomore year at IU in the Kelley School of Business. And so I'm getting to hear about how they're using it. And they've started to incorporate AI into almost all of their classes, right? So on the student side of it, and they're encouraging them again to use it within these guide rails. Don't use it for these things, use it for these things. And they're also helping them figure out how to use it better as well. And so they've actually created an AI 101 class that they made freely available to all students at IU for no additional cost. Then they opened it up to faculty, and now they're opening up to the rest of the world at some minor cost, right? So anyone can go up sign up for that class now. I went through it recently, and actually it was actually pretty good.
Mhm.
Um, and so from that standpoint, they're getting a lot of exposure and at the student level about how to use this stuff effectively, but still learn. And that was one of the pushbacks my son actually had originally was it just feels like cheating. Like I'm getting the answers like on some of these things, but talked about it. I think the professors are very helpful about again what's okay in terms of reinforcing the learning environment for the
Mhm.
students to actually use their brain, but also take advantage of the tools when it
Right.
makes sense, right, to help them. And then further down, I have a daughter who's also in high school. She's a junior. And so they're getting exposure to it as well, right? So
Oh.
everyone at every level, I think, is. And they're starting to use these things. A lot of it's, like the early days, we're asking, ChatGPT questions about things.
Mhm.
But I think it's not too far off where they'll start creating some agents for some of the stuff that they do
Mhm.
in their normal lives in high school and
Right.
college and those kind of things. So it's pretty exciting to see this, different sets of use cases here across, the
Mhm.
professor and academic side of things to the student
Right.
side of college students in high school, and how that all comes together. And I think it's all advancing pretty fast, which is exciting. So
Right. And I think the next generation, like every generation, is going to come in with this kind of, this is part of their DNA. They don't
mhm,
know. And so Gen X, they're digital by heart. They use the iPhones and everything. They don't
yeah,
have the baggage we have, right? So they come in with that expectation and knowledge. I think these next two generations coming up are going to be the same way with AI and robotics,
yeah,
humanoid robots, right? I mean, I think that's going to be common here pretty soon.
yeah,
Most families will have a humanoid robot in their house, right? And
yeah,
everyone will be using AI for everything
yeah. It's going to get
that's
exciting
mundane.
to see the differences there. And like you said, it's kind of what you're used to growing up, right? So, I grew up, the internet came out, probably, for me, like early high school years, something like
Mhm.
that. Maybe like the first versions like AOL and that kind of
Mhm.
stuff, like we're maybe before that, but like the first serious internet, we could actually do interesting stuff. And then throughout college, and then mobile phones came out
Yeah.
in a big way, like, probably right after I graduated
Mhm.
college and went into the workforce. And that's when, at first I think we had pagers. I was in IT on call on for support and things like that. I had a pager for like the
Mhm.
first year, maybe two. And then it turned into cell phones from there because they became much
Right.
more pervasive and that kind of stuff. And just those paradigm shifts. Now you can't imagine what life would be like without a phone, right? And now a
Exactly.
smartphone, and
Right.
so these guys that are growing up right now, my kids are college and high school age. I have my brother's kids are more like elementary school,
Mhm.
approaching like junior high, and
Wow.
so they're just in a different world as well. I mean, even 4 or 5
Right.
years behind my kids, it's really going to be different because they're not going to know anything else but having these tools, right?
Mhm.
And so it's going to be a whole new world that they see through that lens of not
Mhm.
having that baggage and sort of the mental blocks that some of us might have of kind of
Mhm.
coming from the old world, right?
Right.
Yeah,
Right. And I think that's also interesting in companies, right? So every company now you're going to have intergenerational, workforce, right? So you're going to have many generations uh, people representing society that will collaborate and work together, and they can always learn from each other, right? So everyone's going to bring their experience and knowledge to work, and it's kind of cool that you can work with people from different backgrounds, different countries, different ages, different cultures, right?
yeah,
And that melting pot kind of blends together to help develop and create whatever you're doing for your business, right?
yeah,
And I see that as the future, right? And I think everyone's going to learn AI in elementary school, high school, and college, right?
yeah.
And everyone's going to learn how to apply it. For example, on a personal note, I got a lawnmower, a robot lawnmower,
Mhm.
and I love it because I get to play with it, map it, and I'm pretty sure I'm not supposed to watch it while it mows, but I'm overcoming that, right? And so to me that was a cool thing for me to do, just like you talked about getting the iPhone, I shouldn't say iPhones, mobile phones. and other devices. I can still remember the modems. I thought that was fantastic, and hooking that up and everything. Now people, when I mention that and Hollerith cards, they go, "What ancient history are you from?" So that, I see that happening like every generation. It's kind of interesting to see how these upcoming generations that are going to take this and move the needle, if you will,
Yeah,
to the next level.
yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's going to be exciting to see, how the perspective of these up and coming folks, kids now are going to, go into college, enter the workforce. There's going to be a different perspective. But to your point, I mean, there's still certainly value in other perspectives of people who have been through the other parts of it, maybe have a little bit of baggage, but as long as we're all willing to learn and adapt and understand how things are evolving, then everything should work great, right?
Right.
And we're just bringing different perspectives to try to help and challenge and not forget the lessons of the past. And that
Right.
something we talk on here quite a bit about is this is a paradigm shift, but we've had paradigm shifts before, right? This is a big one, and it's pretty meaningful and impactful, and it's going to change the world. But we've had world changing things happen before that we've lived through, like the advent of the internet, mobile phones, things like that. And to the point of some of the previous conversation about jobs and what does that look like. I think it just starts to create more opportunities. It's not going to be the same jobs as it was before, and that's what people get stuck on is oh my God, the printing press came out. What's going to happen to all these scribes? Well, yeah, that's going to change. We don't need the scribes anymore, but we need other things because that
Right.
allows us, different opportunities to be more thoughtful and strategic and operate at a higher level and do more things because we're not stuck to having to write out every single letter for a newspaper. Right now, we
Right.
can print it. And
Right.
so, same thing here. It's
Yep.
going to, start to eliminate the tasks that are at the low level in favor of being able to do bigger and more interesting things, which is exciting.
That's right. And our society and culture will adapt and change, right, over time. So I'll just do a personal note here. So, the big thing, we're going to find out more big things about models and LLMs and so forth, but everyone now say, oh, I can tell this is written by AI, or you have too many M dashes in there, and I can tell it's AI and everything, right? So that's a big thing nowadays. For some reason, people want to point that out, right? Oh, you had to have AI to help you do this. Well, what's wrong with that? That's the whole point. Is have AI help you write, have AI help you think, have
Yeah.
AI help you do your work, right? And let me tell you something, M dashes were used by famous authors and writers way before AI
Right.
ever came out. Where do you think AI got to put the M dashes
Right.
in? From those famous authors and those famous writing skills, right? Now, all of a sudden, oh, that's a bad thing. Well, in the 1800s, it wasn't.
Yeah. Bringing it back, making the M dashes cool again.
But I understand. I understand where everyone's coming from. They want authenticity. They want to hear from a human
Yeah.
being and everything, not a machine generated something, right? I understand that.
And that's part of it. The assumption a lot of times is like people just ran it through ChatGPT and didn't check it, didn't read it, just took
Right.
it for what ChatGPT said and just pumped it out, right? And so
Yeah.
it could be hallucinating or doing all kinds of crazy things. And so if you don't check it, right, that's part of the concern is that it looks like AI probably means, oh, the person just like took it for granted, right? Didn't think.
Exactly.
So as
And
long
a
as we get
famous,
to the point of actually like using that as a
right.
thinking partner, not just as a straight up answer, then it's a good thing. So,
That's the other thing I was reading about, that a lot of people are concerned for the next generation. If they use AI too much, they'll lose their cognitive abilities
yeah.
to think and rationalize. I don't know if that's true, right? But I know that a famous consulting firm got in trouble writing a bunch of stuff in Australia, and they got caught that a lot of their references and stuff were just faked and hallucinating and didn't exist because
Yeah.
no one checked the report.
Yeah. 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 Those big consulting companies focus on efficiency, right? So,
Exactly.
well, good conversation here about the next generations impacted by AI. Again, close and dear to my heart with my kids in college and high school right now, and also working with students, like I said. So it's going to be exciting to see, how things evolve over the next decade or two, right? Which seems like forever away from now, but it'll all happen pretty fast. But
Yeah.
anyway, so for the next episode to tune in for, we're going to be talking about our AI transformation approach here at Project Brilliant. So some of the stuff that we've been doing out in the wild, work we've been doing with clients, and how we approach that to help them be effective in adopting and transforming their organizations. And that's that word transformation. Whew, sounds impactful. So we're going to talk more about that next time. So with that, thanks everyone for tuning in, and we will see you next time.
Hi, thanks for listening. Make sure you like and subscribe so you don't miss any upcoming episodes. and drop a comment with topics or questions you'd like us to cover. Thank you. See you later.